Greetings, gang. Okay, little bonus video for you. This one is nothing prepping. Nothing politics, nothing news, nothing. Quite a few of you had made comments to send, show pictures or show videos or whatever from the AC/DC concert in Nashville the other night. I kind of just wanted to tell you what was going on, so it's kind of fun. Hopefully I won't get a copyright strike for this, but if I can't put it up, then I'm making this video for nothing, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, it was an interesting trip the whole way through. Concert was supposed to be Tuesday night, so Mrs. P and I left about 11 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday to drive to Nashville. It's about 4 hours to get there. And so we drive, and we knew the weather was kind of crappy, but we were going to see what happens. It was fine leaving. About halfway there was about a half an hour rainstorm, and then it cleared up, and we drove in. And so we got to the hotel, and there were a few people in line in front of us at the hotel, and everybody had T-shirts on because we were all planning on going to the show that night. And lady up in front says, "You heard the concert was canceled." I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me." She goes, "No, they rescheduled it for tomorrow," meaning Wednesday. Like, oh shit, what are we going to do now? So of course we get up in line to the guy at the hotel to check in. And the first question out of my mouth is, I said, "I've got a reservation for tonight. Do you have a room for tomorrow?" Because we were not staying driving home after the show. And the desk clerk says to me, he goes, "I've got one room left." I'm like, "Mine." That was it. So that was the fun part. So Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, we just basically chilled out, watched the storm roll through, watching Ryan Hall to see what was going on back here at home. And so it was no big deal. We talked to the gang back over here, make sure there was no damage, check on puppies, make sure that everybody was okay watching the dogs for another day, which was good. So no big deal. So Wednesday rolls around, and it's like all day waiting for the show. And so our hotel was about a mile away from Nissan Stadium, the Tennessee Titans Stadium, where the show was going to be. So we walked over there, and we were there. Gates opened at 6 o'clock, and we were there about 5. And the crowd outside was just crazy huge, right? So we get in, finally. And after running around, standing in line forever to get T-shirts, fun part was 2 hot dogs, 2 beers, and a pretzel was $50. So as per normal, you get hosed. But it's one of those things that I am a true believer in, is you've got to live your life while you got it. And as I said to Mrs. P, pretty much this is going to be the last time I'm ever going to get a chance to see these guys. I mean, figure Brian Johnson's lead singer, for those that you don't know, is 77 years old. Okay. Don't think they're going to be doing any more touring anytime soon. And I told her 5 years ago that I said, if they ever tour again, I said, I don't care where the show is, we're going. Okay. Fortunately, they picked Nashville. I was like, that works. Because there were people that we talked to in the hotel that had flown in and had flights home on Wednesday. And then when they canceled the show, these people were all upset because now they had to change plane tickets, find hotels. We got the last room, so buying last minute plane tickets, it was a mess. So we had got to the show, and right on time, right at 7:30, the opening act, which was the Pretty Reckless. I think I've told you guys before, that's Taylor Momsen, who is the lead singer for the band. She formed the band when she was like 15. She was the girl who played Cindy Lou Who in Jim Carrey's The Grinch. Okay, so give you that as an idea. They were okay, but you could tell the crowd was not there to see them. I mean, the seats were still about half empty when they were on. There's a couple of songs they have that have some audience participation. The audience did not participate. You could just see everybody sitting and talking to each other, looking at their phones, whatever. and that was it. But it was kind of interesting to look at the crowd. Overwhelmingly, the crowd was my age, okay? Roughly 60. A lot of gray hair in the crowd. There were some younger people. I mean, it was across the spectrum. I mean, there were some what looked like teenagers in there, 20s, 30s, but the majority of people were the ones that grew up with the band in high school. And so that was kind of fun. So when they came on, the opening song they played was If You Want Blood, You've Got It. And I'll show you some clips. I didn't record entire songs. I'm not one of these people that prefers to view my life through a phone. So we've got some clips. So this was the opening act, or opening song. You got to forgive us for the camera skills. We were probably 100-ish feet away from the stage, so we had decent seats. We were side stage. Figure this: if it was a football game, the stage was in the end zone, and we were probably sitting about the 25-yard line. So that, about 10 rows up. So that give you that as an idea for how far away we were. We're close enough, but you had the big screens on the side that you could see for people that were distant. It was fun, but got to see Angus walk up the catwalk there. He did do his duck walk, but wasn't in that particular scene. But again, like I said, Mrs. P and I were watching the show, not there as camera people. So they cruised on through a few more, and then of course I knew the set list going ahead of time. Fifth song was Thunderstruck, so that was this. And of course, the crowd went crazy. Again, talking about crowd participation, the crowd was singing the song quite well. I mean, hitting the chorus and everything, no problem. So that was really cool to see. It was interesting watching Brian Johnson, like I said, being 77 years old. And you got to give him credit because he gave it everything he had out there. And you could tell in between songs when they'd all group back at the drum riser to change guitars or, make sure they were all on track for how they were going to do the next song. You could see he was labored. It was tough, but he just went. So as they moved on along, and as I was telling Mrs. P, I said, we could see it. I told her before we got there, I said, the big bell for Hell's Bells. So then they got into this. Never mind. All you get is this picture. I thought I had video of Hell's Bells, but no. So they got into that. That was really good, and moved on along, going through more. I mean, the whole concert was 2 hours and 15 minutes. It's all hits. I mean, they played 25 songs. But I was saying we were getting closer to the end, and I said to Mrs. P, I'm like, I said, You Shook Me All Night Long should be coming up. I said, that is believe it or not, that is the most popular song they've ever, the most played song, okay? I mean, between radio play, YouTube play, whatever it is, You Shook Me was the biggest song. So finally they got into that one. Here's some of that. And then, of course, we had to have the end. If you've ever seen an AC/DC tour ever since 1982, when the album For Those About to Rock came out, that was the song they've closed every show with, is For Those About to Rock. And it was always kind of cool. I remembered was they had the cannons on the side of the stage, and we didn't see, I mean, you could see the bell at the beginning hanging from the rafters, but didn't see the cannon. And at the very end, as they came out, here come 6 cannons rolling up backstage. And so, typical AC/DC fashion, you know, this is the picture for them. Closed them out, blasted the cannons off and everything, and it was really cool. You could tell the band had mixed emotions, I guess, if you will. They know this is their last tour. Okay, they started the tour in Europe last year. They came here, did about a dozen cities. They're supposed to be in Chicago, I think, this weekend, and Cleveland next week, and then that's it. It was pretty much the Brian and the Angus show, because Angus is the only member left from the original band. Bon Scott died back in 1980, and Brian Johnson's been the lead singer for 45 years. But, Malcolm died, 7 years ago now, so he's gone. Phil Rudd's retired. Cliff Williams is retired. So, they had Stevie Young was in playing rhythm, a couple of, as best I'll call them, is, session musicians playing the other part. But the whole show, you could tell it was the Brian and the Angus show, because drummer obviously is sitting at the drums, but Stevie and the bassist they stayed back. The only time they came up forward on stage is when they had to sing backup vocals or something, and they'd come up to a microphone, and other than that, they backed off and let Brian and Angus do their thing. You could see, like I said, the emotion in them. They know the end is here. And the crowd all knew the end was here, too. It was a lot of fun. It was kind of sad seeing it end. But, we all know it. We see the end of life, if you will, for a lot of the people we've grown up with. I mean, Mrs. P and I were talking about this, David Bowie's died, Michael Jackson's died, Meatloaf has died, Whitney Houston's died. I mean, all these names that we grew up with, and it seems like every day we turn on the news and there's somebody else. I mean, George Wendt, Norm from Cheers, died just the other day. And, it reminds us all of our mortality. But like I said to Mrs. P, it reminds us to do the things that you want to do while you still can. Because none of us are promised tomorrow. Not us, not them, not anything, But it was a bucket list thing I had. I got to see him one more time, and that was important to me. Thought I'd share just a little bit of fun. Sorry there's not more, but like I said, we weren't there to videotape. We were there to enjoy a show. Have a good one, gang. Pinball out.